Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into a really recent and, frankly, deeply unsettling true crime case. It kicked off with just a shocking detail, a 6-year-old girl finding her parents' bodies. So we're going to unpack the intense timeline here, trace the investigation, which mostly happened, behind the scenes. We're drawing on a recent true crime news piece for this.
Yeah, it's a truly devastating way for any case to start. I mean, the sheer gravity of a child making that discovery, it shapes everything that comes after. And you're right, often what we don't see after the headlines kind of fade is the methodical, just relentless work investigators are doing. That's what this deep dive is about, how they kept working when the public spotlight moved on.
Okay, so let's unpack that. The specific incident that happened in Carroll County, Georgia. It was the morning of February 20th. Deputies get called to a home, and inside they find James Brock, 45, and Kristin Brock, 41, both deceased, apparent gunshot wounds.
And the truly heartbreaking part, the part that also creates, unique investigative challenges, is the role of the youngest child. A 6-year-old girl was home. She made that initial discovery, just unimaginable. It was actually her older sister, Sarah Patrick, who was 17, who then made the 911 call.
Right.
And from an investigative perspective, I mean, managing those first hours, those first days, when a child is maybe the main witness or the only survivor, it just requires incredible sensitivity. Special techniques, too. You're dealing with profound trauma, not just evidence.
But then something happened that often confuses people watching from the outside, right?
Yeah.
After that initial just awful news cycle, the case seemed to go quiet for months. What's really going on during that kind of silent period in an investigation?
That's such a key point. Because it might have seemed silent publicly, but the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, they later stated very clearly, this investigation has never gone silent. And understanding why is fascinating. The real hard grind happens away from the cameras. They actually detailed it. Investigators pursued every lead, sifted through mountains of physical and digital evidence, conducted countless interviews.
Mountains of evidence.
Exactly. Physical and digital. Think about cell phone data, social media, maybe car GPS. All that needs forensic extraction analysis. And they mentioned collaborating with the FBI, the GBI Crime Lab, even private forensic labs.
So that takes time. A lot of time.
A huge amount of time. When they say mountains of digital evidence, that can mean huge delays just getting things processed, especially at public labs. That's where that forensic patience comes in, just following every single thread, however small.
So it's not usually like on TV with a sudden aha moment. It's more like assembling tiny pieces.
Right.
And you mentioned the collaborating agencies, GBI, FBI. What are their specific roles here? How does that work?
Precisely. It's like building this intricate mosaic from hundreds of tiny digital breadcrumbs, you could say, and that collaboration is crucial. So the GBI Crime Lab, that's the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, they handle state-level forensics. Think ballistics, DNA, maybe toxicology. Private labs might be brought in for really specialized stuff, or honestly, just to speed things up if the GBI lab is swamped.
Which happens a lot, I imagine.
It definitely can. And then the FBI, they bring federal resources, maybe behavioral analysis, complex data crunching across state lines, or specific technical gear local agencies might not have. It really shows you the layers of resources needed when a case gets this serious.
And all that quiet, methodical work eventually led somewhere significant. On July 8th, months later, the sheriff's office announced an arrest. It was a 17-year-old sister, Sarah Patrick, arrested in connection with the shooting deaths of her mother and stepfather.
Yeah, and that timing is really impactful. Several months between the crime and the arrest. Sarah Patrick is facing very serious charges. 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault. That time lag just underscores how painstaking these complex investigations are. It's not about speed, it's about getting it right. It speaks to that slow, deliberate process, collecting evidence, analyzing it, building a case that will actually hold up. It's about that unwavering commitment.
And throughout this whole process, the human cost, the families involved, that was always present. The sheriff's office put out a statement, didn't they? Saying, our prayers remain with the families of James and Kristin Brock, and especially with their young daughter, who was at home during this horrific crime.
Absolutely. And that connects directly to the bigger picture of what justice even means in a situation like this. The sheriff also thanked the community, specifically saying they rallied for justice and never gave up hope. That really highlights both the public side and the deeply personal side of a tragedy like this. For the family, especially that younger sister, I mean, pursuing accountability, even after months of work nobody really saw, it offers some measure of, maybe not closure, but resolution in the face of just unimaginable loss. And it also shows how that quiet community support can kind of fuel the investigators, keep them going when the headlines aren't there anymore.
So for you listening, think about this journey we've just traced. From that heartbreaking discovery involving James and Kristin Brock, through the quiet, intense months of investigation, understanding all those layers of evidence, to the recent arrest, it really puts a spotlight on the sheer forensic patience that unwavering dedication required. It led to a major step in a terribly difficult case.
And it leaves us with a pretty profound question, doesn't it? What does it really mean for a community to rally for justice, to never give up hope, especially when a case seems to fade from view? And maybe more importantly, how does that relentless pursuit of accountability, often hidden, often complex, offer some kind of resolution when people are facing such profound loss, particularly for those most directly impacted, like that young girl?